Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle D'Souza Gill, and I'm so honored to be hosting this week while Dinesh is away in Israel. I always love being a guest host on his podcast and really enjoy getting to be back with you guys. Of course, we are all processing Charlie Kirk's death in the wake of his assassination. So we will be talking about the spiritual battle between good and evil. We will be talking about some of the influence of online video games and online usage in radicalizing young people today. And we will be speaking with Marty O'Donnell from The Blaze. And so we have a lot to get to today. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
Since the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk, we have seen leftists all over justifying the killing, either saying that the killer was a conservative, or they've been saying that Charlie Kirk had it coming, or he died by the way he lived. He died according to what he believed in the sense that because he had a certain view on the Second Amendment, this justifies that, all kinds of just horrible things. And we have been watching liberals do this for far too long. 1 minute, they call us Hitler, they call us these horrible things. The next, they go into standard politician damage control mode. The next, they go back into just being critical once again, only to emerge some days later and get right back to what they've been doing all along. These aren't the actions of people who are overly emotional or mentally damaged or simply deranged. This is the product of a deliberate calculation and a far left-wing ideology. We see this left-wing two-step every time. It is not genuine. We know for a fact that it's a game when people like Van Jones and Nancy Pelosi and Rachel Maddow laugh at us behind the scenes, and every time we fall for it. It is all an act. So what's underneath it all? What's the true motivation on the left for such subterfuge? For a long time, I thought it was globalism. The left really wants the entire world to follow globalism. They don't care about America. But globalism is just an attempt to establish corporate feudalism using a top-down form of communism. But communism itself isn't a sincere movement. It never has been. It's historically been the tyrant's choice for enacting ruthless, totalitarian control over his fellow citizen. So maybe the true motivation is the desire to push complete and mandatory sexual depravity dictated by a trans-obsessed deviant elite. But that hardly seems like a plan for control, and more like how these people spend their weekends. Suddenly nowadays, the left has also been incubating radical Islamism. You have militant Muslims from Dearborn, Michigan to Cologne, Germany, making ostentatious shows of public force and terrorizing the local female population. But which one is it? Which of these is the true face of the left? It's like the Scooby-Doo meme, only it's endless. Each time you take one mask off, there's another one beneath it. And that's leftism, it's globalism, it's communism, it's transgenderism, it's militant Islam. So the first and most important thing to know about these faces of the left is that no one on the left really believes any of this. They don't espouse these values or ideologies because that's what they believe. They do it because that's what's expedient. They're just as quick to turn on their corporate overlords for the sake of communism as they are to turn on their feminists or trans hitmen for the sake of militant Islam. Lying and insincerity is the only confirmed and consistent quality of the left. If you think about all these different groups that they try to bring together in a combined group of hatred, many of them hate each other. They say they advocate for racial minorities, the worker, women, the poor, and every moment they get into office, they massively betray all of these groups. They betray every single one of them. And with crocodile tears streaming from their eyes, they blame the right for their failures. We cannot trust them to honestly define themselves in their own words. So we have to look at their actions. Why did the left embrace globalism? Well, corporations were a major lever of power to control people. What they buy, what they can say, where they can live, how they can survive. Why did the left embrace communism? Again, it's a means to power. Why did the left embrace trans extremism? Power. And why did the left embrace militant Islam? Because they're one of the only groups who is unafraid to use power. So what is the left really? Well, they're not guided by one specific thing. That would require some sort of consistent philosophy that followed the laws of non-contradiction. And the left is a seething mass of contradictions. I think the inescapable conclusion here is that the left is only masquerading as a unified political party. If there's anything that brings them together, it's actually the ideology of really just jealousy, hatred, trying to bring out of these groups this angst, this anger, whether that's driven by, you're put down because you're this skin color, you're behind because you're a woman, because you're this gender, because of so-and-so and everything else. It's never anything positive. It's never anything good or true or beautiful. Politics is just another form that they can use as an insincere front to gain power. Based on their actions and rhetoric, I think one must conclude that in actuality, the modern Western idea of leftism is really little more than free-floating psychopathic rage. They only live to sow resentment and see the fruits of that resentment bear out. Horribly, in this case with Charlie Kirk, that was borne out in the case of a shooter assassinating him. So we can't look at this as just a random incident, a random excuse that just happened to take place. This comes from clearly a leftist pattern. Try to watch the people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death and come to any other conclusion. People are attracted to leftism for one reason only. They are at their very core trying to run away from good and run towards evil. Seeking this kind of power by any means necessary is absolutely evil. And anyone who is willing to see another human being get shot in the neck, see this kind of destruction, children who won't have a father anymore, anyone who's willing to laugh at that or justify that is absolutely, in some realm, taken in by evil. These are not our peers. These are not people that we can have some kind of reasonable discussion with. The assassination of Charlie Kirk for the crime of simply debating, simply wanting a free exchange of ideas on a college campus, a place where you should be able to learn and discuss ideas freely, has resulted in a horrid death. This push to deflect while simultaneously celebrating or calling for more political violence means to the left that they think we're monsters. Why do they embrace this rage as a way of life? What's the reasonable explanation for why they're doing this? Well, isn't it obvious? Look at everything they embrace. The gluttony of worldly globalism, the sloth and envy of shiftless communism, the vainglory and pride of trans radicalism, and the wrath of militant Islam. These are all deeply connected. The left is not a positive ideology as much as it is the mindset of someone who is frightened, desperate, and angry. It is the mindset of people who are willing to do anything. Anything so long as they feel like they can stop God, especially a Christian God. A lot of them talk about how evil God is. They talk about how, Charlie Kirk was a MAGA Christian nationalist. They don't want to see America as a Christian nation. They don't want a Christian revival in this country. The left first lied about and then killed Charlie Kirk, not for his politics or normal views on gender, but also because underlying politics and your views on gender is a worldview. It's a philosophy, a way that you see good and evil. The way God made us was as two genders. And they killed him because at the heart of this philosophy, his personal life, even how he lived, his worldview was a deep and abiding love for our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Kirk represented that in a profoundly caring and holistic way. He had a beautiful wife and 2 children. He was very careful. I think he actually didn't really drink. He was very much not someone to be, out partying or any of this. He would tell young men, make sure to not smoke weed, go get a job, go to church, and love your family. And tell women, have kids young, get married young, and devote your life to loving them and things like that. And I think the left is so hateful of that kind of ideology. The left is so triggered by that because that is everything that they're against. They want discord. They want people to be turning against each other. They don't want there to be a nuclear family or a stable society where people, are polite to one another and men hold the door for ladies. They don't want any of this. They want a country where different races, different genders, all of this just hate each other. The left acts like they're all about unity, but in reality, them sowing discord amongst people is the only way they can all bring them together as Democrats. To them say, we hate the Christian, white, Republican male. That's the only thing that can bring all of those disparate groups together. And at the end of the day, they actually fear the Christian God. They fear that. They fear his wrath, but also his love. They almost reject his love because they don't want to think that there could be a God who sincerely loves you and would come to this earth to die for you, because that would require them to repent. That would require all of us to turn around from wicked ways and say, no, we are going to try to follow the Lord and ask for forgiveness and ask for his grace and truly believe in him. But a lot of these people, they don't want to change. They say, no, I'm going to choose my way. I'm going to choose to go the way of, the opposite of God, and that's evil. In order to accept the loving embrace of Jesus, who died for our sins, they have to admit that they too are sinners. And that is what they will not do. I think many of us who are Christian Republicans, we would say, of course, we are absolutely fallen people. We are sinful. We need God's grace. We need that in order to be able to be forgiven. But many on the left, they don't want to be forgiven. They want to be celebrated for doing bad things. They want to be encouraged to continue down a road of deviance. And that is where the left and the right simply cannot agree. Simply, it's a good versus evil situation. Maybe I shouldn't say left versus right, but that's really what it's come down to. It's good versus evil. And if you love your sin so much more than you love God, you're not going to want to see godly men out there or godly women out there. So someone like Charlie Kirk is going to be very upsetting to you. And that's why some people on the left would get so upset by Charlie Kirk or anyone else like him, because it is a living example of what it means to embrace good, not to say they're a perfect person, but to say we're a sinner, but we're going to accept the Lord into our hearts. And the opposite of that is rejecting it. And when you've rejected that, you really want to take in the fact that, no, you are good the way you are. And it's hard to ask for forgiveness, to make that decision. But we see just how much their lives are impacted by them not doing that. It really breeds so much hatefulness, so much resentment, so much self-hatred even for them. And that's what sin does. It warps the mind to love sin more than even self or God. Think of Gollum casting himself into lava, desperate to save a mere ring of power. That image is the true face of the left. So the left has been bouncing around for the better part of over a century now, desperately searching for the one thing that can fill the God-shaped hole in their hearts. So long as that thing is not God. They just say, oh, no, I can't have it be that because then I'd have to change. So they've looked to money, they look to power, to luxury, to self-help gurus, to other gods, even the self as God, which is kind of what transgenderism is. And finally, after exhausting all these other options, they realize there is nothing else. So they took the spiritually nuclear option. Burn it all down. Start by immolating their own souls. but also hoping to bring down as many others in the process as possible. Or someone who truly is a light in the world, someone like Charlie Kirk. So they kill. They kill babies. There are millions of abortions every single year. They kill children. There are many who are killed from child sex trafficking due to our open border. Many who are exploited for sex and money. Women who they tell, oh, it's so great to be in prostitution, when they have horrible self-worth, are exploited for sex. They kill thousands of Americans a year by protecting drug-running cartels who make a ton of money. And then we see our young people on drugs and killing themselves, violent criminals they want to protect on the street, even when it's the same small group of criminals who continually harass and kill young women, like Irina. They kill the American spirit, telling us we're all prejudiced against each other. We all hate each other. No, that's not true. They kill people for the crime of having different ideas. If there was an iota of sincerity remaining among those on the left, they would stop deflecting and they would start apologizing for the role they played in Charlie Kirk's murder and that of many others. Leftist propagandists in the university warped this shooter's mind. Local agitators befriended him, online communities on discourse further radicalized him, all while mainstream voices in DC and in the media repeated the mantra that people like Charlie Kirk are evil. This tragedy is entirely the work of perpetually deranged leftists. It's not poor logic, it's not low IQ, it's not even purely greed. It's unadulterated turning away from God. That's why they are at the heart of all of this chaos, pain, and suffering that unfortunately afflicts our nation. For the longest time, we have let these people define themselves for us. That's why we've been calling them Democrats or liberals or communists up to now. But those are all political terms, and ultimately, this is not all political. We need to look at this as a real spiritual battle. And right now, they are without God, which means they are without His goodness. But that is available to them if they choose it. And so I wanted to, before we dive into our conversation, our interview with Marty O'Donnell, is to just end by saying that this is ultimately a fight between good and evil, and this is a spiritual battle.
Most people over 62 have tens of thousands of dollars in home equity, but that wealth is only paper value unless you sell or take out a mortgage, and traditional mortgages require monthly payments. Movement Mortgage offers a home equity conversion mortgage, often called a reverse mortgage, where payments are optional. These FHA-insured mortgages can be one of the best ways to increase cash flow and maybe decrease taxes in retirement. Even if your home value drops or you live past 100, you're never required to make monthly payments if you remain in the house and keep up with taxes and insurance. You will pass on all the equity you didn't use to your heirs. Yet millions think that these home mortgages, these reverse mortgages, are risky or only for desperate homeowners. No. Find out the whole story from Movement Mortgage. They will send you a free book. It's called Home Equity and Reverse Mortgages, the Cinderella of the Baby Boomer Retirement. Go to movement.com/Dinesh, or you can call 580-REVERSE. That's 580-738-3773. And MLS ID 39179. Mike Lindell tells me a major retail chain just canceled a big order, leaving MyPillow with an overstock of classic MyPillows. But hey, their loss is your gain. For a limited time, MyPillow is offering the entire classic collection at true wholesale prices. Get a standard MyPillow for just $17.98. Haven't seen it that low. Upgrade to queen size, $22.98. King size, $24.98. Snag body pillows for $29.98. And versatile multi-use pillows for just $9.98. Plus, when you order over $75, you get $100 in free digital gifts, no strings attached. That's right, premium pillows at unbeatable prices and bonus gifts to top it off. So don't wait. Call 800-876-0227. That's 800-876-0227. Or you can go to mypillow.com. Don't forget the promo code DINESH Dinesh. Grab your standard MyPillow for just $17.98 while supplies last. For too long, Christian entertainment has been trivial and second-rate, but Angel Studios is proving that that's no longer the case. They've launched 2 new original series that excel in storytelling and production. The first is A Week Away, a musical about a teen dragged to a Christian summer camp. At first, he rejects it, but through music, community, and faith, his heart begins to change. It's entertaining while delivering a clear message of redemption with music that will move you. Then there's Testament, the series. This one's extraordinary. It reimagines the book of Acts in a modern setting, showing believers risk everything to follow Christ. It raises a profound question. How far would you go, would we go, to stand boldly for the truth today? Here's the key. Both shows were chosen by the Angel Guild, ordinary families who want better stories on their screens. As a premium member, you'll enjoy ad-free access, 2 free tickets to theatrical releases, and a real voice in what gets made next. Go to angel.com/Dinesh and join the Angel Guild today. angel.com/Dinesh.
I'm delighted to welcome our guest today, Marty O'Donnell. He is a composer of some really big things you've probably heard out there, like Halo and Destiny and some other commercials and things like that. He's also running for Congress in Nevada. I've also read some of his articles on The Blaze. So, Marty, thanks for joining me.
Danielle, it's a pleasure to be here. And hello to everybody in the audience. This has been a really tough week, but I appreciate being able to talk about things here.
Yeah, definitely. We have so much to get to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you have a very professional microphone there, so
Well,
you're ready for interviewing.
I was doing podcasting myself here for a while. I've done about 25 things. I was on your dad's show. So yeah, as an audio and commercial music guy, I don't want to have bad equipment. So
Yes, you're a professional.
yeah.
Well, why don't we get your reaction to the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Of course, that's what everyone is reacting to right now. And just what were you thinking when you heard about it? How did you find out about it? And what was kind of your initial reaction?
Well, I'm still just gutted by the event. I cannot believe that this is what we've come to in our country, where someone could be, such a gentleman, such a nice guy, only interested in civil discourse, reaching out to people who have different opinions. And that is the only thing he's ever done. And that he would be just shot in cold blood. And here's the thing. Even when it first happened, and I happened to, of course, see the video, and I won't ever watch it again. I thought to myself, well, obviously, no one can do this who is sane. I mean, there's something either demon possessed or insane, some mental huge problem for someone who actually is the one pulling the trigger. And we can talk about what radicalized a person into being able to get to the point where they are pulling triggers on and killing people and just cold-blooded murder. But what astounded me more than anything was the response of the left, that they could so across the board see so many people on the left on TikTok and on social media celebrating this. Teachers, college teachers, high school teachers, grade school teachers, people who, normally are just doing idiotic TikTok dance videos, actually celebrating a murder. And I thought, it doesn't matter the motivations of the individual. What are the motivations of all these people who think it's okay at this point to celebrate the cold-blooded murder of a man who's a good man? He never hurt anybody, his wife and children. It's just devastating to me. It's horrible.
Right. It's absolutely awful. And this might be completely out of your wheelhouse, but I heard you say Halo and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that this guy had a lot of experience with, like, I guess, video games, Discord, things like that. I'm not certainly the expert on these things, but have you kind of noticed any I guess, online radicalization of people when it comes to games, or just even like these places where Antifa, they'll like message each other, or get into some kind of like platforms that are alternate. I know I'm like younger, but I honestly don't know a lot about that space. So I guess I was just wondering, do you think that played like a role in him being radicalized to do something like this?
Yeah, this is going to be something that I think those of us who are on the right. I've been a conservative since I was, 9 years old when I saw Barry Goldwater be introduced to the world by Ronald Reagan. So that shows how old I am. I said to my mom, "I'm a conservative. In my heart, I know he's right." This is a famous line from Barry Goldwater's campaign in 1964. So, going through all I've read so many books, Thomas Sowell and William F. Buckley and Milton Friedman. So I'm a hardcore conservative. I'm also a musician, composer, and I've had a really great career in the video game business, and I understand technology. So what I'm going to say is that for those of us on the right, if we're not familiar with certain areas, demonizing the technology is not going to help us. The technology is video games is something. If you find a 22-year-old kid who hasn't played video games, you're finding somebody from another planet. Like, everybody plays video games. So there's no commonality there to say, oh, this person played video games, therefore he's violent. But yeah, I do think we have to look. And by the way, I also have a Discord channel. I've had it for years. Discord is just a place like Slack, which is a little bit more used for business. Discord was set up to make.
So explain to us what is Discord?
Discord is just the same thing as it's just an online place that you can get in and chat with people who join your channel. So it's just an online channel that you can have threaded discussions, you can share videos, you can actually be playing a game and sharing the game you're playing with people who are online with you so they can see what you're doing. You can even play together. A lot of time, I think Discord even started as a good way for people who are playing the same game in a multiplayer environment to talk to each other. So it was just a way that they could have audio chat and text chat and share images. It's just another piece of technology. The thing is that you have, I think it is probably important for us to be able to look at how are some of these services being used, like Reddit or TikTok or X or Discord. Like, how are they being used by a subset of definitely evil people? It doesn't make the platform evil, but evil people can use these platforms to try and groom the next generation. I mean, Roblox, I don't know if you know anything about Roblox, but it's a game platform where you can make your own games. Roblox has come into some controversy because once people start using Roblox as a place to meet other people and make games and, communicate, you can get predators in there and you can get bad people in there that take advantage of stuff. So I think it is probably time for us to look closely at how these platforms are being used for evil, because evil is the common element. The technology is not the problem. It's the evil behind the people who are taking advantage of this technology.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely it's not like, oh, it's all evil or anything, but it is interesting that this person was on Discord, I guess, talking with other of these kind of anti-fascist or whatever they want to call themselves, as opposed to, let's say, on Facebook or something like that. Not that that doesn't happen on these other platforms, because we've seen a lot of hateful videos being posted of people saying they're glad Charlie Kirk was killed and all this on TikTok and Instagram and everything else. So that could be on any platform.
Right.
But I don't know if it's because when someone is in like this gaming zone, they're like transported into this other place. They're like in the middle of this, and then they're like messaging, and maybe over time this radicalized this person to actually act on it in real life. I know that's a whole debate about video games versus real life, and maybe he had obviously serious issues beyond just that, and perhaps demon possession, like you're saying. But something else I noticed is I think a lot of parents, and you may be an exception, but they don't really know what's on these things. They don't really know what's on games. They don't know what's happening in this. And this guy was a 22-year-old man, so he's not a kid. He's
Right.
obviously an adult who can do what he wants to do as far as all that goes. But I guess, what do you think about what should be encouraged as far as what should conservative parents do, let's say, if their kids are younger? Like, do they need to play the games and know what's on all the games? Do they not even
Yeah.
introduce this concept? Or what would you suggest?
Well, I think that it's a lack of parental care if you let your kids do anything and you're not aware of what they're doing. Like, you have, if kids are reading comics, they're reading books, they're watching television, they're seeing movies with their friends, they're going online and they're doing YouTube videos, whatever it is. If you just let them do whatever they want to do without any sort of oversight, you've abdicated your parental responsibilities. So yeah, I don't see any reason, especially why, I'm 70 years old and I've been playing games really almost my whole life. Video games started when I was a teenager with Pong, and then with text adventures, and then we started getting consoles and other things. When the arcades came in the 70s and 80s, kids were spending all their time at arcades playing games and dropping quarters in like there's no tomorrow. Parents who weren't aware of what is the attraction, why is my kid spending so much time there? Like, parents at that moment should have paid attention. But I don't think it's anything more than just what normal parents need to do. You should say, hey, what are you reading? What are you interested in? What's going on? Why do you like this
Yeah.
so much? What music are you listening to? There's nothing inherently bad about video games or music. But there can be things that if the parents aren't aware of what their kids are consuming, it can lead to bad places, because any sort of media, any sort of culture that's coming into your kids' brains and souls, you need to be aware of it. So it's just not that hard to understand. Hey, this is not a good game. You shouldn't be playing this game. And I'll tell you why. Let's talk about it. I remember finding some CDs that my daughters had. My daughters are a little bit older than you, I'm afraid. But they had some CDs. I remember going, wait a minute, where did you get this? I was like, oh, everybody's listening to it, junior high, whatever CD it was. And then I went through it and I said, here's why I'm going to take this away from you. See, these words are bad. These are bad thoughts. You don't need to have them going into your head. And my daughters were like, yeah, but the music is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. The music is cool, but the words are bad. Like, the message that's happening is bad. So we're going to talk about it, and then you're not going to have this anymore. And it's the same with games, the same with movies, same with TV shows. Parents can't be ignorant. And to be honest with you, ignorance is no excuse. That's the job of a parent.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I think that's interesting about this digital age is this person, 22, he grew up at a time where digital is probably all he ever knew,
Right.
and spending time on his phone, spending time on the internet, video games, all these things. Again, it's not like you want to demonize one specific thing, but it is harmful to spend all your time just totally consumed in that space, because you can lose kind of grasp on the real world reality. I mean, I know that some people who get pulled into those things, especially if it's something that drives someone, clearly like this guy maybe had some serious problems, right? So I think that's a real issue. And something that I
Yep.
noticed when I was younger was I deleted social media when I was younger, because it would just be a time warp.
Yeah.
I would want to check it for a second, be like, oh, I'll just check this for 5 minutes. Next thing I know, 20 minutes have passed, and I was
Right.
scrolling and just
Scrolling.
mindlessly looking at random things that friends were posting. This was back when there was only Facebook.
Mhm.
But then I was just like, I'm going to delete this, because back then when I had schoolwork, I was like, I only have this much time for homework. I don't have time to just throw 30 minutes into looking at this website, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, I just had to delete this because even if you want to limit the time, you have to check on it, whatever. And I know, again, I'm not an experienced video game person, so you are going to be way more knowledgeable about this than I am. But I feel like it just pulls you into this space and you lose time. You lose like a sense of what's kind of going on in the real world if it goes too far. So I guess this guy grew up in like a more conservative home, and then his father was law enforcement, went to college. I'm assuming the indoctrination took place there, got probably pretty extreme. And then also people who try to do these things, I think sometimes think this is going to like impress people. I mean, what did he think would be read by people writing words on the bullets, you know, with like catch this fascist or, you know, these other words on it. And so I wonder about that.
Yeah, Danielle, here's what I would suggest. And I don't think we should focus that deeply on this sick, twisted individual because number one, he's a 22-year-old male, which in terms of schizophrenia is one of the areas that it's an age and the sex of so many schizophrenics, and schizophrenics start to live in their own world. I totally agree with you that probably the amount of time he spent in his fake social media world that he thought was real and is not real, whether he came into it through games or through talking to some bad people on Discord, or however he got deep into his demonic possessed area, a psychopathic area, that we can look at and say, this is something as parents we need to be on the lookout for and be aware of. What I don't understand, and I think this is a broader societal illness, which is there are so many people spending so much time on social media as though that's the real world, that when the real world actually intrudes into that space, they say all these horrible things about other people in social media spaces. And they're usually in a silo of people who agree with them. And they're just in an echo chamber where they never get any pushback. And then suddenly real life happens and somebody's actually assassinated in real life. And IRL is one of those short terms that you see on social media, in real life. And I think these people, when I see so many people on social media celebrating something so heinous that has happened, that shows a sickness that's in the broader culture that I really do believe comes from this addiction to social media. And at some point, I think we're going to have to look closely. I salute and applaud your ability to delete Facebook and delete, whatever other social media things you've sensed were sucking your time out of your life. And
I have it now.
Bad.
I have
think it's
Facebook
great.
now.
Sure.
But I mean, just consuming that kind of stuff is just awful. I really think you have to be so careful with what you consume, because you can, like you said, as a tool, you can use it for good. You can be consuming good things or it can be consuming bad things.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the kind of sick, hateful things being posted, what do you think goes into their thought as far as literally making a video of themselves saying these things about Charlie Kirk, posting it on, let's say, TikTok, in order to get followers, in order to get reaction like that? I mean, I guess there's some kind of market for it, because obviously these liberals are believing that. And I think a lot of common sense liberals have become conservative. So a lot of people are moving away. But there is certainly a radical leftist side of the Democrats that's very much justifies this kind of stuff because they truly think we're evil.
Yeah. And I think that this concept that they only hear in this echo chamber, they only are talking to other people who agree with them, and there's no consequence when you're online and you're only talking to people who will agree with you. Now there's going to be some consequence. I feel like this is truly a turning point. It's kind of amazing that that's the name of Charlie's organization, because I think at this moment, this is a sea change. This will be a turning point. And also, it's interesting to me, turning point, to be going in this direction and then turn around. That is the definition of repentance. That is what when the Bible says, repent, that's what's being talked about. Change the direction you're going in. Go the other way. I think this could be a turning point. This could be a moment where, it could go in several directions, but I am hoping and praying that this becomes a societal wake-up call where we repent of these horrible habits and sins and we go the other way. Charlie was showing us a different way, and it's just horrible that he was killed for it. But it's even more horrible that there is a leftist, and I wish these were just the extreme left, but the problem is the left has been taken over by the extreme, and now the center of the left is extreme. The center of the left, from Kamala Harris to, Joe Biden to, Chuck Schumer, all of these politicians and all of these pundits have been calling 50% of the country Nazis and Hitler and a threat to democracy. Now, if you can be that vitriolic about people who disagree with you about policy, people are listening to that. And the online people who are just consuming only one side, here's the thing. We have permission here. There's in culture. Okay. This is going to sound a little bit funny, but you can watch a movie about zombies and it's like, well, it's okay to kill zombies. And then, it's okay to kill Nazi zombies. That's even worse, right? Nazis. Like, you could just kill Nazis in movies and literature and comic books and video games. So these people who grow up with this kind of culture, it's like, it's okay to kill Nazis. Then you have an entire group of one half of the political spectrum, the left, calling the other half Nazis. And so there's going to be people on the fringe who say, well, okay, if these are Nazis and they're a threat to society, they're fascists, hey, fascists, catch this. It's on the bullet. He believed it. And not only did he believe it and act on it, but then all these people who can't get out of their social media bubbles, they don't realize what just happened in real life. There's no consequence for them celebrating this absolutely satanically evil thing. So I'm sorry I went on a rambling there. I'm still trying to make sense
I
of it.
completely understand. What do you think about, I guess, comparing this kind of an assassination to our last political assassination was Martin Luther King? It's almost become like a huge phenomenon that people are reacting to worldwide, all over the country, having a strong reaction to Charlie Kirk. What do you think it is about this that has led to such strong reactions all over the world?
Well, it all goes back to even when Gandhi was murdered. This is a man, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Charlie Kirk, who were calling for conversation, civil discourse, arguing ideas, maybe sometimes as strongly as possible, but peacefully arguing, peaceful words, because peaceful words should trump war and death and destruction and murder, and that's what it should be. So when those people who represent the peaceful approach are murdered because of that, it's going to cause a reaction. It's going to cause, I think it's fascinating that we don't have riots in the streets and cars overturned and burning buildings and, storefronts crashed in, because that's not the way, number one, that's not what Charlie Kirk would have wanted. And when you look at Charlie's life, you realize that he was all about reaching out across the divide as peacefully as possible. And words are not violence. So real violence coming back at someone who is this gentle and this kind and this loving, it's going to cause a complete rethink. So people on the right who say, we agree with Charlie, we want to keep going and fighting for peaceful civil discourse. There's going to be people further down the road who are like, okay, the time for discourse is over. And I really hope that they stay sort of on the fringe, that we don't respond in kind, that we still try to reach out as lovingly as possible, but with strength. We cannot allow these people who are celebrating murder to go without consequence. There has to be consequence for this whole thing.
Well, I've seen most of the reaction has been praying. It's been vigils. It's been very peaceful. And a lot of people who are considering going to church again.
Yep.
Maybe they want to follow Christ now. Maybe they'll start a turning point chapter. Maybe they'll get more involved in politics. But certainly as far as our, serious hardcore response, we need to be investigating these organizations, schools, people who have put out these kinds of videos. They shouldn't be teachers. They shouldn't be influencing people like this. And most of those people making those videos, they work in healthcare, they work in schools, things like that. And so that is scary. And most conservatives take it for granted that we just live in a place where we can't really wear a MAGA hat without being willing to be beaten up and attacked.
Right.
And we just don't, because we know what that means. Unless you're in a conservative area. But if you're in a liberal area, probably not going to. Whereas liberals, they're pretty much free to be liberal wherever they want.
Right.
Conservatives generally don't act like that. So we do need to have a change in this country. That's not okay. We shouldn't just accept that.
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, I was going to say, to follow up on what you're saying, I put out a tweet, and we'll see what sort of traction it gets. But what I feel is that if you believe that Charlie Kirk can be murdered for his words, then you should have no problem losing your job because of your words. And so, if you believe one is okay, then the fact that you lose your job, you shouldn't complain. If you're going to take a stand that's so ridiculous and you end up losing your job for it, you shouldn't be complaining. If you are, you're just a coward. And I think every single teacher, every healthcare, every politician who has come out in celebration of this violent death, I'm not talking about people who just happen to disagree with some of the policy issues. I'm talking about people who have come out after this death and they're celebrating it. They shouldn't be teaching our kids. They shouldn't be part of academia. They shouldn't be part of media. They shouldn't be part of Hollywood. They shouldn't be part of the game industry. They should all lose their jobs. And that's number one. So I think we should be making lists of these people, proving what they're saying, when they said it, and then saying to their employers, they shouldn't be employed there anymore, period. So that's number one. We'll see.
One thing that's really scary to me is the pilots, because transgenderism, I guess, is not considered a mental illness in the aviation community, whereas they usually kind of veto people from becoming pilots if they even had ADD or even just other issues that we would consider to be mild problems. They don't allow you to become a pilot because it's really serious and you're, in charge of a plane and you have to work together with another pilot. And we're getting transgender pilots who have really high rates of suicide. Obviously, a lot of them have mental illness. And I think it's just this very unfortunate thing that the left is basically pushing stuff like this, because it does lead to stuff like that happening, as well as things like the shooting. So I hope that it's things like that we can stop.
Well, I mean, transgender is just happened in the last 15 seconds of human history. We have no long-term data. If you're born a male and at some point, for some reason, you don't believe you're male anymore, you think you're female, and there's nothing you can do. Either you can't change yourself from a man to a woman or a woman to a man. You can't. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You can change outward appearances. You can act differently. You can be more feminine or more masculine, whatever it is. I understand the social constructs, but you cannot actually say, I am a woman trapped in a man's body. That is dysphoria. It's sexual dysphoria. I don't even want to use the term gender, because gender comes from a discredited person named John Money, who came up with the term, gender, whatever. And it's been completely debunked. And that's only in the 60s. So we're not talking this, the quote unquote science around gender is so new and so untested that we shouldn't be making, life-changing decisions based on this kind of thing. And we shouldn't be saying, let's just pretend like gender dysphoria is no longer a mental illness. It's like there's no true scientific evidence that we should change that. It's obviously a disorder of the mind, and we should be compassionate to people who have mental illnesses. But this is a mental illness, and I defy anybody to tell me it's not a mental illness. That's just ridiculous. So
Yeah.
And this is not to say that having this mental illness is evil. I'm not saying that. I'm saying these people need to be treated just like if you have anorexia. It's a disease that shouldn't be encouraged. And we have the entire left side of the country that believes, that through our culture, through our media, through our, news outlets, through the academics, people in charge of academics, they're pushing this idea that saying I'm a woman trapped in a man's body is normal and good and should be encouraged and celebrated. And it's like, okay, well, let's change that. Don't let these institutions push this lie. It is a lie, and it shouldn't be pushed. And the people who believe this stuff should be treated compassionately, like we treat any mental illness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Marty, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your thoughts
in
the midst of
appreciate
this dark topic.
It is. And tell your husband hello next time I'm in Washington, D.C., which will be soon. And I hope I actually get to be sort of, an office mate of his, or, down the hall or whatever. MartyForCongress.com. Just go there and we can get rid of one of these sort of lunatic Democrats in Nevada and keep Trump in office, having a healthy administration rather than one that's saddled by impeachment and lawfare. And I'm so glad your husband is there, and hope to join him in the 26th.
Awesome. Thanks, Marty.
Yeah, it's great to meet you, Danielle. I appreciate it.
Well, that wraps up today's show. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to find me on social media. I'm at Danielle D'Souza Gill. I'm on X, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and True Social. So make sure to find me on there, and I will see you all tomorrow.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and salemnow.com.